I don't care
Wow.
if that was right or not. I don't care about
I could
anything.
feel your soul slipping out slowly.
I'm fine. I'm just tired. I'm just exhausted.
Yeah, that's what I heard was your soul escaping.
Although I guess that's what every adult says now. I'm fine. I'm just very tired. Or I'm not fine and I am also very tired. I'm mostly.
It's all kind of the same.
It's just all tired, all the way down. Well, we can warm up with whatever you want. Actually, I might just take my contacts out and switch over to my glasses. I don't like having the reflection on the lenses while I'm on video, but...
Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Look, Dave, I'm touching my eyeball.
No, I'm good, thanks.
Whew. But now I've gotten one of them out, which is a problem, because I got to get the other one out. Oh, did I tell you what happened a couple weeks ago?
For those of you on audio only, I guess it wouldn't be the warm-up, but you're really missing out on this content.
Did I tell you a contact-related story from like 2 weeks ago?
No, you did not.
Okay. So we had to wake up early and go drop the truck off at the dealer to get something looked at. And... Oh, they're dirty. I got to clean them. 1 second.
It's a whole thing.
So I got up. My normal routine, go to the bathroom in the morning, yada, yada, yada. And then I put my contacts in before I go do anything else. Like, my eyes aren't so bad that I have to have them to walk around, but I just like to get them in before I start going about my day, because it takes a few minutes for your eyes to adjust to them and to feel normal and all that stuff. So I normally do that quickly. I've gotten pretty good at installing them. It's been going fine. So this time I put them in, and every once in a while, I don't know how to describe it. It feels like your eyes don't take to them like they normally do. That's not a great way to describe it, but like they just feel a little off. I think it's just like your eye muscles get tired or something. Maybe someone else listening knows. I wear dailies, if that makes a difference. So I felt at first like it was just one of those days. My vision was just like a little bit off. And I have a routine for how I put both contacts in. I open both little containers, pop them out. You rub your finger on your wrist to dry it off, put the contact on, very slowly touch your eye with it, etc., etc. But I was like, whatever. I don't know what the issue is, but I'll sort it out later. So we drop the truck off. The whole time I'm like, man, my eyes just like hurt a little bit. And I just can't figure out why. So I got home and I looked and I only had one contact in.
Uh-oh.
And my first thought was like, where is the other contact? And so I looked, I like peeled up my eyelid. I looked all around. I couldn't find it. Hope looked, she couldn't find it. Like, the worry is always the contact will have gotten like rolled up and shoved back into your eye. But if it's even a little bit wrinkled, you feel that like very clearly.
Oh, yeah.
So we couldn't find it. We have no idea what happened. I installed both of them. I did the whole thing. Both containers were empty. We couldn't find it on the floor, on the counter, anywhere. Somehow only one contact was in, and I went and drove and did errands and everything with one eye working correctly, and somehow did not realize that.
How was the migraine?
It was okay. I put another one in and it was fine. But there are some days where like I do get a headache because it just feels like the contacts don't, like one of them just doesn't hook. And my eye is just sitting there like suffering, and I just have to take them out midway through the day and pop my glasses in.
Boy, I can't wait for cybernetic implants. What can go wrong?
Aren't you putting off going to the eye doctor year 4 or 5?
We're in decade 2 of that, Jeremiah. Come on now.
I mean, do you know like how much your vision might be degraded?
Never been.
I mean, do you like... Can you read signs that are like 200 yards down the road?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty lucky. I think if it's degraded, it's not much, but yeah, I have been putting it off for about 12 years now.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have noticed if it wasn't for the astigmatism. So like at night when you just start getting the streaks and stuff in your vision, if it hadn't been for that, I probably would have made it a lot longer. But that just makes it so it's like impossible to focus on stuff at night. And so I felt like I couldn't like see road signs or exits or which lanes cars were in. And I was like, man, this is not ideal.
Yeah, I think we don't have any of that, so I guess I'm probably pretty lucky then.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I'm getting away with it.
I mean, my mom made it to like 55 and without a single issue. And then one of her eyes went from like 20/20 to 320 in a year.
Whoa.
And she had to have like surgery on it to fix it, and then it's fine now again. But but she was totally fine until then. If she hadn't had that issue, she probably would have made it her whole life, which I guess not many people do, but it's possible. Anyway, how are those new tires treating you?
I don't drive. Have you seen gas prices?
That's fair.
Yeah, they're pretty great. Yeah, I mean that's basically it. The road noise isn't too bad. They look nice, and good to have new tires because that's the first time I've ever bought all four at the same time. I think
that
I've always done two at a time.
Gosh, I don't even
and rotated. I've always done two at a time and rotated. But now in 1 year we have the CRV and the 4Runner both have 4 brand new tires.
I am happy about that. I am disappointed how you are stating that as such a large accomplishment that you have properly purchased tires for your vehicles.
Look, if they weren't dry rotting, I would have gotten more time out of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, you didn't. It's not like you planned for this and you're excited. You were forced into it by Joel of all people, which is very impressive that Joel was able to shame you into new tires.
That was the CRV. Yeah. I don't believe it was that bad, but it was pretty bad.
But my kid rides in it and whatever.
Yeah, basically.
Ben in the chat brings up a good point. Think how much better your shooting could be, though, Dave.
Well, I do actually wanted to, my next trip to the pistol range, which has been, I think the last time I went was with you in November. It's been a while. I want to practice my eye dominance shifting because I have one of the worst setups for pistol shooting where I'm right-handed and left eye dominant.
Okay, so when you said you wanted to practice dominance while shooting, I understood that to be something very different, but that's fine.
You can take it as you will. Jeremiah, want to go to the range?
I actually do. I was going to say at the end of this, I'd be down for another trip because I haven't shot the gun. I guess I've only shot it twice.
I've got the new 1911 I haven't gotten to try yet.
Wow.
Along with...
bet it feels just like every other 1911.
No, it's clapped out. It's real clapped out.
Worse.
The trigger, it's like a 14-pound trigger pull. That trigger is war.
Like gritty, like you can feel like chunka chunka chunka.
I wonder if you can actually hear it over the mic.
It makes a scraping noise.
You won't be able to see on the camera because I'm using my low quality camera, but like the grips are all chipped and whatnot. The back of the
yeah,
is
that's
like
some patina.
Smashed.
Yeah.
There's actually still like a little bit of rust in the front, but let's see if you can hear the trigger on the mic here. I guess I can't quite be in frame. There we go. So it's like it pulls and just hits like a wall and like.
It cut it out too much. I just heard a click. That's it.
Yeah. So for a single action 1911 trigger, this is the worst one I've ever seen. So if I end up keeping this one long term, I'm probably going to try to learn more about the platform and replace the hammer spring, the sear, and a lot of the parts that make the trigger pull work. Although I was looking into it for the sear, which releases the hammer, the engagement surface, you have to like stone sand it with like 3 different levels of stone to get it at like the right angle. So it's going to be interesting. I feel like, though, I could do a really bad job and it would still be better than how it is right now. But yeah, we should get a range day in.
Is that a... I forgot. I'm sorry, because I know you told us. Is that a World War II surplus? Korean War surplus?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, World War II. It's an A1, which they went to the A1 right after World War I. It was like 1924.
Yeah, because I was going to say, it didn't look like it was a very first model 1911. It looked a little more refined.
Yeah. It's just a handful of changes that they had, but this is an A1. According to the serial, it is a roughly April or May 1945, so it's a wartime.
Is it?
And it's a Remington Rand, the typewriter company. So slide and frame are both Remington Rand.
Are you going to try to keep it basically as is, or like take it apart, soak it in gun oil, clean everything up, try to get it working smooth?
Because it's already been rebuilt by the armorers like 3 or 4 times over its life, it's not like an all original. Like the barrel doesn't match. It has a new barrel in it from the 80s.
Gotcha.
The slide and frame are both Remington Rand, but they probably didn't leave the factory together. There's probably like a replacement. Mm-hmm. So seeing so many of the parts have already been replaced, my plan is to actually, if I keep this one, replace more of them to make it run a little bit better. But yeah, cool piece of history.
Okay.
But yeah, what I was saying about the eye dominance thing originally, there's a whole bunch of different methods for how you deal with that. And the one that I ran across the other week that I want to try is instead of moving or tilting your head, actually practicing when you present the pistol, presenting to your left eye, which takes a lot of practice to do if you're right-handed, because you're presenting off of your right hand. But they used to teach if you're left eye dominant, right-handed, to try and present the gun with your head tilted slightly.
Yeah,
that's actually hard to replicate.
Really? Oh, I was thinking that would be the easiest thing, is just get used to like holding your head a little bit to the side.
I want to try the present to the left eye thing and see if that's easier, because I've known for years now that my eyes are set up like that, and still I always forget, and then I'm shooting at a weird angle and going, what's going on here? Like, everything's going wrong. Oh yeah, wrong eye.
Presenting to the left sounds like when people describe, what's the old-timey term for, like, do you dress to the left or the right, sir? Like, are you familiar with that?
No.
Okay, so dressing to the left or dressing to the right refers to when a gentleman is putting on his trouser and has to make an important decision about which pants leg he favors.
I like this.
Favors for certain other accessories. So
it's an important thought for me at the range, too.
As you say, present to the left, present to the right.
I got to pick one.
All right, should we go ahead and podcast here?
Let's podcast.
Well, let the shenanigans begin. Welcome to the Casual Shenanigans Gaming Podcast, a podcast all about the irreverent love of gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Jeremiah, and tonight I am joined by the one, the only other host with me tonight, Ranger Dave.
I'm all you've got.
A lot has happened. You may have noticed it's been 5 weeks since our last podcast. It has been 5 weeks since our last confession, and in that period of time, Joel had to go and become a dad. So that means every other host of the show is now a father, and I'm just all of their daddy, work-wise.
You're now podcast daddy and work daddy.
And James is also out with a family thing, so they both said go ahead and keep podcasting, just because we've been trying to do it for a couple weeks, and it's just been so many things have happened one after the other. It's been impossible.
It's been wild. My dad had triple bypass surgery last week.
Well, he wasn't supposed to have it last week. He was supposed to have it previously.
Weeks ago.
That's some of the things that have happened is just getting the surgery scheduled and successfully pulled off.
There was a medication mix up, and then he's got diabetes and all, which is a complication. But then on top of that, Dad's doing well, by the way. On top of that, just when you thought the big boy job jokes couldn't get any crazier, Jeremiah moved up the ladder aggressively this week.
We say aggressively. The aggressively is not referring to what happened to the people who were on the ladder previously. It just means...
I wanted to leave it vague.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Some things adjusted quickly, which again sounds bad. It was nothing bad. It was just one of those things where, like, you don't think something's going to happen for several years still, and then all of a sudden a position opens up and you're the only option, and
you have 6 hours to make the call.
And I have 6 hours to make the call, and I am now the director of our department, which on the whole, not so bad. In the short term, a lot of stuff you got to learn. A lot of classes you got to take, paperwork you got to sign, terrible secrets you have to be responsible for. Or are there? No one knows. Except for
also,
me.
Europe's at war since the last podcast, so there's that going on.
There is that. That is not one of the secrets I'm personally responsible for. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so pretty much everybody has had stuff going on a lot. So as we told you guys when we started doing this podcast revival last year, almost about a year ago, and it's been 15 episodes, that gives you an idea of our cadence.
Yes, more than one a month.
That's true. We would like to do this like every 2 weeks, but we're dedicated to doing this only when we can, and we can make it work because we want to hang out with each other. We want to enjoy it. We don't want this to be something that is stressful or frustrating or whatever to do every couple of weeks. So that's why our cadence is all over the place. We're sorry for that, but at the same time, we're not sorry for the reasons I just explained. And for you guys who enjoy the podcast when we release it, thank you for watching and listening and everything. We do appreciate you guys. But obviously the podcast is in a different phase of life, just as we all are compared to when
and most of the listeners too, probably.
When the chins were bare and the hair was all dark colored still.
Yep.
Except for James, his was still kind of gray. So it's just me and Dave tonight. Do we want to do news first, or what are we playing this week?
Let's talk about some games. Let's talk about some gaming.
All right. All right. Now, Dave, hear me out.
Hit me.
I feel like the best thing we could do, because Joel will listen to this later, most likely.
Before he goes to sleep, as he does.
I think we should give the official Casual Shenanigans Gaming Elden Ring review with the two of us. How do you feel about that?
I've played like 4 or 5 hours, so I'm
I've
pretty
played
much
about
set
14
up for...
or 15, so I feel super well prepared.
Mm-hmm.
No, but let's talk about Elden Ring, because that's, I think, the only thing on this list that we have both played. I guess we played Ready or Not and mini golf, but the thing we've played several hours of each would be Elden Ring.
Yeah.
So how has your experience been in Elden Ring?
I've barely played any. But it is probably the most accessible Soulsborne game that I've seen. The checkpoints, their frequency really surprised me. I mean, I'm still in the very beginning, even 4 or 5 hours in, so it's hard to say long term what it's going to be like for me, but I keep getting little tidbits of what the game is like from Joel, and from what I've seen so far, I'm excited to explore a game that isn't handholding. Ignoring the classic Soulsborne enemy difficulty, the idea of exploring just for the sake of exploring and not following map markers is pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to more of that.
Yeah, I mostly agree with that. This is going to be some hot takes here. I've seen so many people. I wasn't planning on getting it immediately. Not that I wasn't planning on getting it, but I just wasn't going to be day one. I had other stuff I was playing. And then all of the 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100 reviews started dropping. So many people saying this is legitimately, I'm surprised this is the best game I've ever played, or this is one of the best games I've ever played. I was like, well, okay, I guess I'm going to be getting it pretty early on there. Oh yeah, that's another thing that happened since the last podcast. I had to go to the ER for a stomach bug, and that was the day that it came out. So I was delirious at 3 a.m. trying to fall asleep, and decided to go ahead and buy and install Elden Ring. So that possibly affected my judgment. But
oh man, I forgot. I got really sick last month too.
It's been a time.
It's been the longest year of 1 month we've ever had.
So when people have said it's the best, one of the best games they've ever played, I don't understand why. And I will qualify that. I think this is definitely the best Dark Souls game I've ever played by a long shot. World design wise, I think the art direction is gorgeous. Some of the concepts they've come up with for the world are insane, which has always been true of Dark Souls games, but I think in an open world game, they've really been able to kick that up a notch. Some of the enemy design, always a classic of Souls games, some of the enemy design is insane, truly incredible. Some of the stuff they've come up with. And like you said, it's so accessible, but in the same way that I kind of didn't really get into Breath of the Wild, for me, saying something is an amazing open world game and exploration is incredible, to me, the world has to feel lived in, and there has to be an emotional connection to stuff in there. The story has to make me care about it. You and I are just two broken records if we sit here talking about our favorite open world games are going to be Red Dead 2 and Witcher 3, and we have all of the reasons that we're totally in agreement about, so there's no point in us just sitting here congratulating ourselves on having the right taste, which we do. But to me, it just feels like open world Dark Souls, but not that that's a bad thing. The world is very cool, but I'm not having the transcendent experience of I didn't know open worlds could be like this, or I didn't know gameplay could be like this, or whatever. The art direction and some of if I could buy paintings of some of the shots in this game, they are truly incredible. But it's very pretty, but it's just a very pretty Dark Souls game. That's my impression.
Ooh, I'm really glad you laid it out like that, because I've got a better way to state my opinion now, I think. I really like what you're pointing out here, and that's that, like you said, the enemy design and the environment, the world design is truly incredible. The characters and enemies in the Soulsborne games are their strong points. They're all so unique. Every enemy you run across, minus the skeletons, is holy crap, what is this? And Joel said that there's some enemies that blew his mind, even as a long-term player. For sure, yeah. So I'm excited to see those. But yeah, I think the reason that I'm just not hooked, where I can't stop playing hooked, is because of the story. To me, the Soulsborne games always feel like the story is someone plagiarized the summary of the Lord of the Rings Wikipedia article and just threw a couple sentences together and added some slow camera pans and some orchestra music, and that's the story. It's missing the emotional connection. It's missing the lived-in world connection. It feels like an incredible monster hunting theme park.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's not the deep hook for me for the story at all. And that's an important thing for an RPG for me. And that's, I'd say, half of the reason why I'm not hooked yet. The other half being that these are games that you repeat areas to grind and get better. And I'm just not at a stage of life where I'm looking forward to repeating something over and over again. Like those aren't the kind of games I'm looking for right now. And not to dive into the what are you playing section too deep here. But as an example, I've been playing a lot of Hitman 2 recently, and those games are set up so that you play the levels multiple times, get kills in like multiple unique ways, and you discover like hidden storylines each time you play. They're designed where you can play them like 5 or 6 times and see totally new characters and storylines. And I'm playing a one path through playthrough of the Hitman games. Like, I'm done with the level, I'm not going back. I might down the road, but I'm looking for a one and done game right now.
Well, and honestly, what we probably ought to do, this is the first Souls game that I have not primarily played co-op. That's how I got into them, and that's how I've always enjoyed them. And the co-op is very accessible and seems to work pretty well in this. We should just play some of it together, and I'll just carry you through the parts of the world that I've done so far. I mean, they're not going to be easy. I'm not going to carry you like I'll take care of everything for you. But like, we can just go through a lot of it together. I'll be able to level up some more, which I want to for my playthrough, and you'll get to see it. It's so huge. I mean, it is truly massive. And yeah, I'm 15 hours in, and it feels like I'm maybe 25% unlocked in the world. It could be a little more, I'm not sure. But, I keep finding stuff other places. If you just want to go through some of that together, I'd be happy to, because like that's always how I've gotten the most enjoyment, just having another person to watch your back, to talk about ideas with, to explore, and also just so like you can experience some of the cool moments together. Because I think that's also what the Dark Souls games are best at, is having the like, I can't believe this tree has now turned into a dragon that's breathing like lava on me. Like just the stuff that like you can't believe this is in a game. And that's just so fun to do with other people. Or the first moment where you're like, oh yeah, let's take this boss. And then he just completely annihilates you in 5 seconds. And you realize like, oh no.
My favorite co-op moment so far was accidentally finding a pretty early, I call it like a medium boss. And me, Joel, and Eric were doing some co-op. And we were just exploring some ruins out in like a nice field of flowers. And we were all looking in the wrong direction, and we heard like the boss music start. We're trying to figure out what's going on, and we turned around, and basically there's this big field of wildflowers, and what we thought was like a collapsed castle was like a stone golem that just rose up out of the flowers, and we're in like a boss fight all of a sudden. And that was a cool just open world moment where we were literally just in like a corner of the map that we thought was empty, and it was actually a fight. That was a really cool moment. We were all freaking out because we weren't ready for any of that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more, though.
I do think the music is probably the best out of any soul, but it's mostly the really great music is on the main menu, and then in the game, I'm waiting for that theme to come in. Maybe I just haven't hit it yet, but I'm like, oh man, I want more of that. And then I do think this is the most coherent story of any Souls game, but it's still like, well, no. If you've seen the opening cinematic, you've seen all the story I have. Like the other games, like it's in the world. You can read things and find stuff and whatever. Like it is there, but it's that type of like open world RPG story thing where I'm not saying this is invalid if you like this. I know people have talked so much about the Souls games and they love how deep it is if you invest the time into it. That type of storytelling has never hooked me. RPGs where you have to read everything have never hooked me because I like the acting and the emotion and all that stuff. Like, there's a reason you and I love Red Dead 2 and The Witcher's story. It's because of the specific characters and the music and the acting and the emotion and all those things. Like, it feels like a really well done TV show or a movie in many ways that goes on for many, 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 many hours. And I just don't get that out of a lot of RPGs. So, like, I think a lot of this is just a taste thing. I'm not saying it's bad.
It is absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm just, to me, this is like the best Souls game that's ever been made by a long shot. I don't understand why it's the best game a lot of these people have ever played, and that's okay. I'm not experiencing that like epiphany moment yet of I've never experienced this before. This is a game unlike any other. Gaming has been redefined for me. Like I'm not really getting any of that. I'm having an incredibly fun time though.
And can we just give a 2022 game 2 thumbs up for launching basically not broken and feature complete, and some rough edges on the PC version, not to overstate its perfection, but I mean, let's just say, at least for content on all platforms, the game's done and is well balanced and is working well.
A very smooth launch, like no big scandals, no big issues that we're aware of at least on the 10th of March when we're recording this. And it's sold incredibly well on every platform too, which I think is pretty impressive. I mean, this is going to be one of the best-selling games of the year.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. Another one I've been playing, this is actually what I've probably played the most in the past month and a half, VR mini golf. So as we've talked about, we have Oculus Quest 2s now. And since we did the initial video series on them for your channel, I hadn't done a whole lot with mine, mostly because I previously got like motion sick playing VR games. So, some of the gang organized a day when we hopped on to Rec Room or something and played. I think we played paintball and a few things.
Like paintball was a lot of fun.
It was fun, but it was one of those like, oh yeah, that's a fun like little gimmick, whatever, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then Debbie from the crew, she was like, you got to get this mini golf game. And like, I play mini golf when I'm in Myrtle Beach on vacation, like everybody else. But like, I wouldn't say I'm a huge mini golf enthusiast. But she's like, no, you don't understand how fun this game is. So I bought it, and like, son of a gun, it's like playing mini golf, but you can do it in space.
The physics are amazing. Yeah.
It's so close to the experience of playing mini golf. When we hop in and play, it really feels like you're going to play mini golf with your friends. Like, it's uncanny. Because like I've played golf games on a computer before. I don't know if you ever have, but like there's been golf games for years where like you pull back on the mouse and stuff, and like that doesn't feel like playing golf, and it's fine. This is the first golf game I've ever played that was actually like, all right, it's not the same as playing mini golf, but the social experience of playing with your friends is remarkably similar to playing mini golf.
It's impressive, and also really accessible too for that game. I had just tried it the night that I finally got my Oculus set up correctly to run it, and she was golfing in like 2 minutes, having never used VR since like Joel's original demo Oculus like 7 years ago. The only thing that tripped her up was that in that mini golf game, you can't walk forward, which is really, I mean, you can't walk backward. Sorry. So if you're like, you're too close to the ball, you have to like make a big circle. And of course
I teleport. I don't walk for motion sickness.
Yeah. I can't do the teleporting. I got to do full motion. And so I had full motion on, and that was the only thing that tripped her up, was that you had to like walk in a circle.
That's funny.
It's just a weird decision that they had, I guess, so that I guess if you were to hit back on the walking stick, on the analog stick by accident and didn't expect it, it might make you dizzy if you went backwards all of a sudden.
Maybe, but you can hold your hand up in the air and like fly straight into the sky. So I can't see that being better.
It's a very odd decision. But I am looking forward to actually playing with the group now that my Oculus is finally set up correctly. I, however, have paid basically like $28 for that game now because Steam denied all my refund attempts on my broken copy on Steam.
Sucks.
So it better be good. We better play more.
I'm definitely down to play more. Debbie and I have even hopped on like at lunchtime, just like hit the links real quick over lunch, because that's another thing that I've come to appreciate. And I'm going to sound like Joel. I actually called Joel when this happened because we were playing with Edgard and we were trying to get stuff set up ahead of time because he has a Valve Index. And you can cross-play Steam and Oculus, but we were trying to figure out voice chat and stuff so we could all talk to each other, so we're trying the in-game chat. So he hops into the in-game chat. Edgard, I'm sorry if you're listening to this, but he hops into the in-game chat, and it's obviously the wrong mic. Like, it sounds like he's all the way across the room. So I'm talking to him. He's like, oh, hold up. I got to do the thing. And you hear the mechanical keyboard noises of like, and then he's switching something. Then you hear the Windows noise like that. Da-ding, da-ding, da-ding. Oh, crap. Da-ding. All right, is this the right mic? Don't. Yep, that sounds like the right mic. Oh man, my arm's not tracking, and he's got to go mess with the sensor and like get everything set. And I'm like, I just wanted to play golf. I just wanted to put on my headset that I paid Facebook $15 for the game and installed it. I only have a license to use it on this one system. I don't care. I just want to play mini golf. And it does seem like everyone who bought it just through the Oculus store has been having a great experience. Everyone who's bought it on Steam and whatever has had a mixed experience.
My Steam copy was launching onto like a dev debug level with no controls every time.
Oh man.
And that was after I spent 2 hours trying to get my headset connected to my computer, because I bought it on Steam, so I had to link it with the Oculus software, and there was a terrible user experience in that I had attempted to set up AirPlay, the wireless setup, earlier, but because of my weird networking setup, that wasn't an option for me, even though AirPlay apparently works really well for most people. So I had to use the cable, but because I had activated the AirLink setup on the headset, it was blocking the cable from working, but there's no explanation that that's happening until Shane 2 hours later said, oh, when I got my cable set up, I had to totally turn off AirLink as an experimental feature on the headset. And so I did that. And immediately I hear the Windows sound, da-doom, and it connects. 2 hours wasted trying to figure out why the cable wasn't working.
And it was, to be fair, I'm not trying to just defend them on your behalf, but to be fair, it does say it's an experimental feature. It does feel like someone could add 10% more information to that, though. I get that it's a use at your own risk thing, but somebody could put in a tooltip.
Yeah, it really should just say hey, when you enable this, you're going to block the other main way to connect this headset until you turn it back off again. Because it wasn't even that AirLink was on the headset. It's that I had enabled the option to turn on AirLink. You had to go into the settings and say I never want to use this, turn it off in the options. And yeah. But I did play some on my own alone, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so definitely VR mini golf. Just another shout out for the Oculus having really good mics and speaker setup. It is underratedly good. You guys know how much I care about good audio, but the mic and the speakers built into it are both good enough that so far I have not once felt the need to add a supplementary thing to it. I'm happy using what's in the headset for all normal uses. Only exception might be I'm going to be playing Half-Life Alyx. I may put on external headphones for that, plug them in just for better audio. But for all casual games we've been doing and stuff, the built-in audio and mic is excellent. And this is a headset that costs $300. It's
less on sale. It was $215 over Christmas. It was super cheap.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm super grateful to the headphones and the mics worked well, because the day that we recorded the Medal of Honor promotional video content, we had 1 hour to get set up, and we hadn't tried any of the recording stuff. We hadn't tried the mics. We hadn't tried the headset, the headphones. So we just had to roll with it. But yeah, like you said, it actually gave us some pretty good sounding audio. That was good.
Yeah. Dave, I see on your what are we playing this week thing, I see some stuff I don't recognize. I've got one more game to talk about, but you've got a lot more than I'm
going to zoom through some of it. Yeah. Carry on.
No, go ahead. I'm saying tell me about some of these. Oh, you want me to go first?
You don't want to finish your list there?
Okay.
Almost done. All right.
I bought Gran Turismo 7. I was also not planning on getting Gran Turismo 7, and then all of the reviews were awesome. I'm a huge Gran Turismo fan from back in the day, but 4 is the last one I played seriously, so PS2 era. To be fair, they haven't released that many. And since then, Forza has gotten really great, and I've played a lot of Forza. Honestly, it's fun to get back into Gran Turismo and some of the license tests and other stuff, the quirky old things that were fun. In pretty much every other way, I think Forza Motorsport, not Forza Horizon, but Forza Motorsport is a better game series. I still need to play more, but there's just a lot of UX quirkiness in how many menus you have to go through, and it not really telling you what to do next. And it the way it starts you out really low, which makes sense for most racing games with progression, but it's not always clear what you need to do to advance. There's just a lot of stuff that was industry standard, and it was the best racing series ever in 2004. And some of it feels a little bit oh man, you guys haven't played the last 5 Forza Motorsport games that came out since you last released a main title, have you? But the driving physics are excellent, probably a little better than Forza. Something I'm really liking about the PS5 controller. Have you played with a PS5 much?
Only very, very briefly.
Okay, so the triggers have different levels of sensitivity and resistance in them. So I can be slowing down to brake, and the brake trigger puts a lot of resistance early on and then starts vibrating as you push farther down as the wheels start to lose traction. And then also on the accelerator, you can feel if you pull too far and the wheels start to break traction again because you're giving it too much gas, you can feel it start to break loose and little bits of resistance you have to work through. Like, it actually gives you pretty successful tactile feedback of what you're doing with each of those pedals. It's cool.
I really hope those controllers hold up long term, because I feel like that level of finesse, that's got to be engineering wise tough to make sure that that it's going to hold up for years and years of use.
Maybe. It feels pretty solid, but the battery does die pretty quick. I feel like the PS5 controller lasts like 6 or 7 hours, and my Xbox controllers last so long that I don't even pay attention. Like, but those use physical batteries, and the PS5's rechargeable, which makes a difference. But like, yeah, like my Xbox controllers, I feel like it's months in between charging them.
Yeah.
So
that sounds about right.
That's what I've been playing. I'm excited to be back into Gran Turismo. If anyone has been playing Gran Turismo or Elden Ring and is like, hey, I feel like you guys are totally missing or not understanding something, please let us know. I'm sure Joel, if he has made it this far past us talking about Elden Ring, to be clear, Joel, we like Elden Ring. We like it. But I would love to talk more about it with him because he's a lot farther in than me. And I want to experience all the amazing things in it. Like, I want to be wrong about, I don't think this is as amazing as a lot of people say. I think a lot of it's hype. But I would love to be wrong because I'm greatly enjoying my time. So what else have you been playing?
Well, I got a new computer at the end of January, so for about a 2-week period, I was just playing a whole bunch of random stuff just because I could. I chose Red Dead 2 as my first test game on the new computer, and launched to a blistering 6 FPS with all the graphics options cranked, and I was like, something feels wrong. And I realized my GPU was sitting at like 20% usage. I'd accidentally clicked the power gauge bar in EVGA Precision when I was setting that up, nice. And it set my power limit to like 5% on the GPU.
So you're running nice and cool then, right?
Oh yeah, I was like, this is the quietest computer I've ever had. Also, it's a slideshow. So yeah, that was an easy fix there. Red Dead 2 remains one of those games that when I want a single player game to just capital I immersion in, like, that's usually the one that I pick, and I just, slow walk my horse around and headshot bandits, and do like a story mission or two. Red Dead 2 remains just such an incredible open world game. I also played a bit of Firewatch, doing my Ranger themed PC. I mean, I beat it years ago, of course, but doing the Ranger themed PC, I had some Firewatch stickers I came across, and I was like, I want to play some more of this game. I played a little bit of like the open world exploration area, and whenever I'm feeling like a podcast, I'll load up the dev mode now and do like one of the pick up the commentary tapes, because hearing about how they made the game is really, really cool. I think a Firewatch 2 would be up there with Stalker 2 for like my games that my heart needs. Having just a longer game in that environment would just be incredible. And I think the devs have like mentioned that they are open to that in the future, but they're working on their other game at the moment. So yeah, a little bit of Firewatch of all things, a little bit of the mini golf on my own. Got the Oculus set up now. Played a American Civil War game at an event, a preview event, which was really cool. It's from the devs that made the Napoleonic War huge mod for Mount and Blade. So that's like the same engine and whatnot. The hook for the game is it supports up to 500 active players on the battlefield. Okay. Yeah. So what was cool about the event is, you had a bunch of basically reenactors reenacting in their actual companies. So they basically took all of the content creators, and we were in this little like light rifle squad, because light riflemen are skirmishers, and so if we're terrible at lining up and following orders, that's fine because we're light skirmishers. And they ran us around the battle like chickens with their head cut off, being terrible soldiers for the most part. But it was so cool to look out across the battlefield and see all these other organized companies doing their thing in formation and fighting these actual historical battles. They had a single life mode, which I think Joel would have really, really enjoyed. where the rounds take about 10 minutes total for the battle to complete. But if you die, you basically go into spectator mode and you just zoom around watching the rest of the battle.
Wow.
So it's a really, really tense mode. And then knowing that these games are never going to have huge populations playing them at any given time, right? Like an American Civil War game, you play them once a month when they have a community event, usually for these kind of games. They have a really, really smart mode that's like half RTS in it, where you pick your side, Union or Confederate, you deploy your multiple companies of soldiers up to 500 total, and basically up to 8 players share control of each faction. So you could have 4 players controlling 250 soldiers. And you start out as like an officer of one platoon or something, and you're in first or third person, you march out and you give the AI of your team orders, and they actually march in formation and follow orders like an RTS. But if your character dies, you switch to like the next guy in rank in that platoon, and so on and so forth.
So it's still first person, like you're playing with the same perspective as if it was 500. Actually, that sounds cooler to me from a technology perspective, because it gives you the big feeling. But like, you know how every time, I'm sorry to say the Battlefield word, but every time we're playing Battlefield, you wish like, could everyone just cooperate for 5 seconds so we could do something, one of those only Battlefield moments? It feels like you could do that more easily in this if you just had a couple people on the same side cooperating.
And also, again, like I said, it's a way for these more niche games to maintain a player count if you only need 8 players to have a 500 person battle. And the AI was really impressive. It actually like followed orders really well and marched in formation and did all the reloads well, and you know, you could also, if you died, like go out into spectator mode and just do some of the RTS stuff on the overhead, which was cool. So yeah, that was like a fun random event. Also, I beat Hitman 2. Loving the new Hitman games. They really have the formula for the modern Hitman games down to a T. Like, they know what people like about them. They've set aside that episodic format, and now it's just Hitman 3 just came out with the exact same formula basically as the last 2 Hitman games, and it's just really, really perfected. It's such a good game. Like I said earlier, though, I'm doing the dad life playthrough where I'm like doing one terrible playthrough where I get like 1 out of 5 stars score for all the achievements for the level. I'm like, yep, looks good to me. Mission accomplished.
Like in Ready or Not, where like the only thing you accomplish is killing all of the bad guys, and everything else is like, well, some civilians died. Well, the bomb went off. Yep. Well, and you're like, but we got all the bad guys. Order restored.
The banner unfurls. Mission accomplished.
D-. Take it.
I've got the 2 bonus levels to finish for Hitman 2 that came out like after the game came out, because it does continue the story a bit. And then I'm going to dive right into Hitman 3, because I'm really enjoying those. It's like they're like a choose-your-own-adventure assassination puzzle game, where I wouldn't really describe them as difficult games unless you're trying to get like the 5 out of 5 perfect achievement scores. If you're just going for level completion to complete the main objectives, they're really, really fun puzzle games, basically. Really, really enjoyable. Beyond that, I've also been playing basically every Battlefield game but 2042. I played some to check out the patch on Tuesday. Actually, to be honest, I had a lot of fun recording the footage for the game. Because I moved it off my main SSD where the game was constantly chugging. It has like 100% disk usage when I was in game. So the frame timings, like, dude, there were times where the frame timings were like a second and a half. This is a NVMe SSD or like a 2.5 inch? It was bad enough that I ran diagnostics on my M2, yeah, and the read speed was almost 3,000 megabytes a second.
Which can't even be possible. That has to be a bug. Like, there's nothing that can actually process that much IO unless there's a bug that's like, take these bits, move them here, move them back, move them here, move them back, uncompress these audio files, recompress these audio files.
My best guess is that it was a game compression glitch where it's constantly compressing and uncompressing game files, because you would load into a game, right? And when you went to go pick your weapon, all of the gun icons would be like load in like one by one. And then when you would spawn in, your hands would be empty, all the textures would be super low, and after like 20 seconds your gun would pop in finally.
And that
so I think it was like
QA and was released.
Yeah, I moved it to I have like my old M2 SSD. I moved to the secondary slot. I'm using that as like just like a game drive. I moved 2042 to that drive, and now disk usage is like 30%, and the game runs very smoothly, honestly. So it's definitely some kind of glitch with it being on my boot drive, where it was just constantly archiving and unarchiving game files. But I did actually have fun playing the new patch. It's just that there's like nothing there content-wise. So I'm not going to ask you guys to play it. Like, the cringy specialists are still there. I had fun, but I'm not having like an urge to play more. So
Yeah, and I kind of already forgot about it. Not that like I can't forget about it. Like the Discord talks about it all the time and stuff. But in all the other games that have come out, it has not occurred to me in the last couple of months that Battlefield 2042 is something that I will play. Like, I don't even know if I still have it installed.
The summary that I landed on in my video on Tuesday was that I'm really struggling to care about the patches, because what I want them to do with the game is to basically strip it down and rebuild it, and I just don't see it happening. So I've kind of honestly halfway written the game off already, because they're talking about, oh, we're working on updating the maps now. We're going to be re-looking at them to add more visual interest and more cover, and we're going to be looking at rebalancing the vehicles like they're annoying right now. I'm going, this all sounds like a year of work minimum. They're saying the first map, Jeremiah, that's going to be like reworked to be more fun and less empty, will be released sometime during season 1, which is scheduled to start now in summer, maybe.
I've never been a fan of like when games launch and the DLC starts 2 weeks later. Like, I've never liked that, but 9 months before the first season starts does feel like you've kind of missed the boat at that point.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
I really, and I don't think either that we're going to see them remove the specialists like everyone keeps asking for. Like, that's probably the number one request people have is make the maps better, more cover for infantry, and then get rid of the specialists and give us classes back. I don't see the specialist thing happening at all at this point. The last word on that is that in their map blog, they said, we're going to be beginning the discussion on specialists soon. And that to me does not sound like a rework. That sounds like they're going to make a few small tweaks, like maybe make the voice lines better and less cringy. But I think the bones of this game are what we have now. It's not, they're not going to rip it down and rebuild it. I think it's just time to move on to the next game. Like, just go ahead and start dev on the next one and write it off.
Well, I mean, I know I said this before, but like, is the next game going to be a Battlefield game?
The rumor mill was saying it was going to be a hero shooter, but this is the hero shooter, so like
they think they can dig the corpse up and maybe piss on it one more time. Like, there's some dry bits of bone here we haven't hit yet.
I truly wonder, could they possibly double down on their mistakes again and do something like a hero shooter? Or I think they could only do that if they truly were writing the franchise off, like they did Medal of Honor. They're like, okay, let's just go ahead and do one last cash out and we're done. If they wanted this franchise to have a future, I think their only option is to do a true fan service game in like 2 years from now. Which
sucks, because this looked like this was going to be the fan service game. Imagine
literally,
being the guys who came up with Portal and got it going.
Oh, Portal.
And then having to
gosh.
watch it go off the rails.
No one's playing Portal. No one's playing Hazard Zone. That mode that was hyped up. But yeah, they described this as the love letter to fans, and instead it was a whole bunch of things that no one wanted.
Good times. Or just times.
You know what's great though? Battlefield 1. Oh man, that game. So good every time. That's it. I've been playing a lot of things.
Let's talk about some news.
News time.
Acceptable. All right. Dave actually prepared all the news this time. Because I stopped work, went and ate dinner, and then walked back and sat down at this computer and just haven't had a lot of me time. So thank you, Dave.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to start out the news section here by making, I don't even want to call it a joke. Cause it's a very serious scenario. I want to talk about Stalker 2 a bit. There's obviously a humanitarian crisis in Ukraine right now with the Russian invasion of their country. And the Stalker 2 devs are based in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. And obviously they've had to stop development on Stalker 2 completely. And obviously the important thing is that they're trying to keep their employees and their staff safe in the middle of a war zone. And the biggest thing that we can hope for is that this war is we'll have a ceasefire soon, maybe, and that hopefully they'll be able to get back to mundane life things like, working on a video game again. But I couldn't help but think about we were just talking about Battlefield and now it's a complete total disaster. I was like, man, I've picked some really unfortunate games to cover in the next year, content-wise. Battlefield's a flaming wreck, and the Stalker 2 devs are stuck in an actual war zone. Like, man.
Wow, way to make it all about you, Dave.
I know, right?
I wouldn't say that if you hadn't given the big preamble to start, but...
Exactly. Like, obviously, the humanitarian crisis is the real issue, but... obviously, they're not going to make their December deadline now, and I'm sure that Microsoft is going to be quite lenient on them for their contract being a Game Pass game. But that's honestly my biggest hope is that soon they'll be able to return to mundane things like video game dev. But let's put some links in the description, Jeremiah. I have actually, from the Stalker 2 devs official website, some aid options where people can actually directly help both their staff, the International Red Cross in Ukraine, and some links that they've provided to help their country out in a time of crisis. So
yeah, drop them in the doc. I'll make sure they're included.
And I'm still working on the exact plans I'm going to do, but I think I'm going to do a Stalker related charity stream or video or something, just because the Stalker games have always meant a lot to me, and I'd like to do something more to help them out directly.
I'm sorry, I'm smiling. I can't help the thought that just popped into my head. Given the internet is how it is, you ought to go look and see if there's any mods for previous Stalker games where they add quests to like go find abandoned Russian tanks and things and drag them back.
Go find the stash with the in-law.
Right. Like, just again, the internet being what it is, people would be like, "Oh, that's so sad. I can turn this into content."
And that is true. When you got the Ukrainian. I think it was the Ministry of Defense was posting memes where it's like the cross section of the human brain, and it's like stress at work, and it's like a little bit of red, and then it's like stress when you have work and family, like more red, and it's like stress when your neighbor is Russia, and like the whole head is red. When the actual government Twitter accounts are memeing, you're in strange times. But I also was thinking about just the other day, like Stalker 2 has also had a really, really unlucky development history. Because it was originally started in 2010, 2011 after a Call of Pripyat launched. And it was canceled 2 years later, and the whole studio closed for about 7 years. GSC Game World was completely closed. And then they reopened the studio almost with entirely new staff. Only a few regulars were still there. On a new engine for the game, Unreal Engine. They got a huge amount of hype going, signed the Game Pass deal with Microsoft. It's going to be a Game Pass game. And then, obviously now their country's been invaded. That's a super unlucky development cycle. But again, we wish GSC Game World and everyone in Ukraine the best, and hopefully we can do something to help out with the links that they've set up here.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those surreal things of everyone is excited for a game, and we always talk about, like, whether you love a game or you hate a game or whatever, you want to be kind to the developers who pour their sweat, blood, and tears into it. Like, even Battlefield, a game that we have trashed on so many times. Man, imagine being the devs that are signed up for the next year of trying to make something work with that game. Like, even if they were super proud of it when they launched, just the public reaction.
Yeah.
Even the valid criticism aside, like the public reaction has got to make it suck all of the joy and the wonder and everything out of continuing to work on that game. But that can't hold a candle to, like, you've been... The story of Stalker has always been like a plucky upstart game studio in an unlikely part of the world cranking out like a cult classic. Like, it's always been just a super cool story, and them getting their like big break, which I know that Stalker games have a following, but really Stalker 2 was probably going to be their big break, and it being
first
derailed,
console release. Yeah.
And it being derailed by something like this, like it just feels like such a surreal thing that you can't really contextualize in a way that could possibly make sense. And
surreal. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a surreal scenario to be in, for sure.
But yeah. What else you got for us?
Yeah, we'll switch gears here and talk about some garbage software. Yeah, no, RGB. Everybody loves glowing computer parts, right? Everyone knows that RGB software is generally garbage, but one thing that we've learned through the channel here, Bitwit, ran across this on Twitter actually. He discovered that one of his friend's PCs that he had built for his friend was blue screening constantly, and they could not figure out what the issue was. He's like, I was confident in the hardware. This has got to be a software issue. Well, it turns out there are a bunch of companies, I guess you could call them just software suites, like its drivers, RGB controllers, stuff like that, were ghost installing one particular Patriot Viper RGB program, which was a legacy RGB controller. It was an M2 SSD, Jeremiah, that had RGB on it, because why not? It's been discontinued for years now.
M2 SSDs are normally tucked under heat sinks and heat spreaders and stuff too.
Yeah,
that's fine. All right, RGB. Move on. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Sure.
So this particular piece of software was causing this issue, this blue screen issue on this guy's PC, and apparently it's because RGB Windows applications, for the most part, access the BIOS directly to use the BIOS's master RGB controller for the whole system. Mm-hmm. So if you have multiple RGB Windows softwares, they can actually cause a BIOS security lockout by trying to access the BIOS at the same time, resulting in either thrashing, crashes, or blue screens. So out of curiosity, I've had a few minor problems with my PC recently outside of Battlefield. Like occasionally I'll boot and it takes like 3 minutes to get like the desktop really workable. Like something's just like thrashing in the background, right? So out of curiosity, I opened up my installed programs, went down to the very bottom, and when Apex had set up my initial build, they installed the Asus software updater as part of their official software suite, and sure enough, it ghost installed the Viper RGB controller as well. So I uninstalled that, as well as I just uninstalled the whole Asus like software suite. I'm like, I'm not going to update my drivers for my motherboard unless I need to. And my computer has just felt a lot better the last 2 days. Like restarts are faster. Everything feels more responsive. I'm not getting that occasional CPU interrupt that I was getting. And looking through Bitwit's video here, reading the comment section of the video, did I drop the link in the description, Jeremiah, for you? Yeah. If you just scroll through the comment section here, the horror stories that people are sharing where they're like, I've had this computer for 2.5 years, never understood what was so wrong with it. I uninstalled this software and the skies cleared and the rainbow came down. And this appears to be a pretty serious issue that is spread across multiple manufacturers because of how many are including pieces of other people's software in their suites. So if you guys have had PC issues that you can't quite fix, check your installed programs for Patriot Viper RGB, Asus software suites that you don't use. Basically, look at the very first drivers that were installed on your computer and just look for things that you've never used before, and then maybe check Task Manager as well and install some of that stuff because it might make a difference.
Oh man, that's crazy. I have never had any. I hear all the things people say about their RGB software. With this computer, which is the first one I've ever put any serious effort into it, I have 2 RGB programs. I have Corsair iQ and then Asus Armory Box, whatever their built-in thing is. So I've got my Corsair RAM and then everything else runs off the board for controlling it. And I've never had any issues. Good. And I almost am nervous to say that based on how everyone describes the software, because people talk crap about both of those pieces of software. And I don't know, it's been fine.
And I will say that EVGA's Precision, which my graphics card uses, their built-in LED stuff has worked fine.
I would expect that from EVGA though.
Yeah. The program looks like a music player from 2003, but you
also expect that from all the software that comes with anything that's not like a core Windows thing.
I will say that NZXT's RGB controller for their motherboard, because I have their motherboard and their water cooler with the animated screen on it, because why not? Their software actually looks really good and does work well as well. So I'll give 2 thumbs up to them for making. I mean, NZXT's stuff is generally pretty clean looking anyway, which is why I wanted this motherboard. But thumbs up to them for making the software look like adult big boy software too.
Nice.
Yeah, that's basically our news. I was going to cover some of the artesian build stuff, but I don't know. That drama's probably overcooked at this point for most people.
I have no idea what that is.
I'll cover it briefly for you then, Jeremiah.
Okay.
You'll enjoy
artesian build. Like, I don't even recognize the name.
It's a PC builder, as you might expect. Their gimmick was they had a really aggressive affiliate program on Twitch where you would be an affiliate just if you put their banner on your about page, basically, right?
Okay.
Their gimmick was they would do live streamed builds, sometimes with customers' PCs if they gave permission, I think is how it worked. So they would have like build parties on Twitch, which was, I think, probably like a first. Like, most companies hadn't done anything like that before. But their other gimmick was, if you were just an affiliate, they would once a month, I want to say it was, they would do a build and give a computer away to one of their affiliates. So even if like you're not getting paid to be an affiliate, you have a chance to win a computer in like a raffle that they were building on stream, which is a pretty cool idea too, right? Unfortunately, their CEO was incredibly full of himself, and having not seen any of their streams before the drama that unfolded last week, I don't know how people enjoyed these streams, because he was incredibly cocky and condescending. You'd think that he was running like Tesla or something, the way that he acted, not an artesian PC builder. But they had an issue where they were building this computer on stream last week, and they rolled through all their affiliate accounts to see who would win it that month. And he went through 4 different people that he decided one by one were not important enough to win the computer.
What? I mean, how does he know who these people are?
He was checking their account each time that their name came up.
So
he
would
like
go to their Twitch profile. Like how many customers they've delivered or something like that?
Yeah, I just want you to imagine Jeremiah, the CEO, wearing his it looks like a cyberpunk jacket with his foot up on the table. He rolls, pulls up the Twitch account name, and he goes, "Well, I see here that you have 0 clicks this month, and unfortunately that's not up to my threshold, so re-roll." And this is how he's treating his affiliates, and he did it to multiple people. One of them, though, he kind of like stuck on for a while, and he talks about like their community must not be putting any effort in, and they just don't care, and we're not just going to give things away to people who aren't trying. And like he like kind of like stuck on it for a minute and really just kind of roasted this affiliate, who then posted the clip on Twitter, and they're like, "Hey, I thought we had a cool thing going here where we were all kind of just doing this fun artesian build thing where like it was just fun, and now he's like talking down on my community and making fun of my channel like on their live stream with thousands of people watching." And so this kind of rolled downhill, right? And then it turned out that some of the other things they were doing would be like, if they were building a PC for a big streamer, right? They would try to get people to donate what is it called on Twitch, subscriptions, right? You can like buy a whole bunch of subscriptions, and then that gives that channel money, income, basically. So Artesian Build's Twitch channel would get money out of the streamer's community coming in and gifting subs to people. And the idea was that if they get the hype train got going and they got like a bunch of donations, they would like increase the build quality, like up the graphics card, up the CPU, do like a custom logo side panel or something. Well, it turns out that a lot of that had been going on for the last like 6 months or so would never get delivered. They were just running off with all the gifted stuff. And then it turned out that their business license had expired due to some tax issues late last fall in California. And then it turned out that their computers actually weren't that great, because streamers that had been partnered like a year ago were coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, that computer crashed all the time." And to summarize the whole thing, because you see how it's going downhill now.
Yeah.
The death threat started. The Twitter drama started.
Of course.
As you do. The lawyers got involved. The big YouTube channels got involved and built a few of these streamers like some computers to replace the ones that they were not getting from Artesian now. including Jay's 2 Cents built one for the streamer that had gotten called out the most. It had it to her in like a day. It was amazing. It went from nonstop drama to a fake apology, as you do on Twitter, to then Monday on the Slack channel for the company. The company is insolvent, accounts are frozen, everyone's fired.
Gosh.
And the CEO is like disappeared now.
So it was probably a shell game the whole time of just trying to keep hype and stuff, like build something out of nothing, making you think like there's something underneath it the entire time.
The sad part is Gamers Nexus just launched a video talking to some of the fired staff. This just happened like yesterday or 2 days ago now. Apparently this company was actually shipping way more computers than anybody thought. They had a second location on the East Coast, and they had like 100-some employees total.
Whoa.
And they were really shipping some computers, and most of the company was built off of the back of the chief operations officer, not the CEO, who left 6 months ago. And so this apparently was a actually very successful growing company until the CEO stepped in, and the general consensus here is that he was interested in growing his personal following on Twitch and making a name for himself as the CEO, which is where the attitude was coming from. And instead, he has actually torpedoed this company that was built by a lot of other people, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible. So
yeah, I will provide an update. This all happened really quickly over the last week on a future podcast if we have one.
we will at some point.
I'm curious to see. A lot of companies are reaching out to the employees to try to figure out if there's a way to get the company restarted or whatnot. But it is kind of amazing, though. I think that the whole point of me talking about this news story was I was just amazed at how what would have appeared to be one small bit of ego, on a live stream could, probably end this guy's career in this community, and has ended the company, at least for now. It's kind of wild to see how fast the internet works sometimes. Unfortunately, a lot of people were caught in the crossfire for that, but yeah, things move fast these days.
And with that, thank you for coming out.
That dark story.
To this episode of the Casual Shenanigans Gaming Podcast. You can write into casualshenanigans@gmail.com to be a part of the show. Tweet at casualshenaniga. And then, like Dave said, check the links in the description for the things you can do to potentially support the people of Ukraine. Or specifically the Stalker 2 devs. I want to be...
Actually, I think it is just general
okay.
Ukrainian support options, yeah.
Okay,
for
cool.
the whole country.
Is there any way to buy any Stalker 2 merch or anything ahead of time that actually goes directly to the company? Do you know?
I honestly would not right now.
Okay.
Because I like a lot of the pre-orders were just coming out over the last few months. So yeah, I would actually hold off on pre-ordering the game even maybe right now and just think about donating some money to the links that they're going to provide.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, thank you everybody for being a part of the show, and we will see you next time. But until then, stay casual.